Being a great individual contributor doesn't necessarily transfer to being a great people manager.
One of the most common questions to me was, what are the most important skills that are required for a product manager to be successful? So in your opinion, what would that be?
Yeah, the market is bigger. There's definitely more awareness. The salaries for product managers are very good in general, at least here in San Francisco. Last time we checked, average for an entry-level product manager is over $150,000.
So how do you see the overall landscape changing in the next 5 years? And do you see that there would be a point where everybody would understand product and do product in the same ways?
So I'm not saying that you need to be a product manager in order to become a product manager, because that's kind of a chicken and egg problem. I'm saying that it's important to invest in yourself, to set yourself apart.
Airbnb has changed their product management roles. They're going towards product design. And then I also heard recently that Tesla has removed a product manager role, but they're now being called as product engineers. Hi everyone, welcome back to our podcast, Everything Product. In this podcast, we focus on different product management concepts and latest technologies. You guys know that we have been doing a lot of product leader interviews in the last few weeks, and we have the biggest episode of all. We have Carlos, the CEO of Product School, with us today. He'll be sharing different thoughts on product management, growth of product management, etc. Carlos, thank you so much for taking time and spending time with Everything Product today.
Thank you, guys, and I'm very glad to be here.
Awesome. For everyone, Carlos has been a product leader and he has been in the product education space for over a decade now. So he has been empowering the product leaders and he has been growing the community itself. Carlos, before we jump into a bunch of questions that we have planned for you, I want to ask you a very simple question. So if you want to give an advice to yourself when you're 20 years old, what would that be?
Well, I have two young kids, so this resonates because I'm trying to figure out how to have them listen to me. They're 4 and 6 years old, and what I'm trying to do is to get them curious about things and have them try very different things and hopefully do it in a fun way. So it feels more like playing than an obligation. And hopefully in that phase, they find their passion and they can really double down on that. But there has to be a component around having fun with it so they don't get burnt out. And hopefully they can make a living out of it.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. The work should feel like a play. Then everyone would be like so keen on playing it rather than thinking of it as work. No, that's a great advice. So Carlos, one quick question for you. What motivates you? Like many a times what happens is when you're in your profession, you will continue to do the things that you're continually doing rather than thinking about others growing their profession, growing their career and stuff. So what actually motivated you in doing things?
I think it's really hard to fake your own passion. A passion has to come from within. And as a founder, my passion relies on solving my own problems first. And hopefully these are problems that that affect other people. And so the solution can be done at scale. But like the fundamental thing for me when I started product school was to solve my own problem. And my problem in this case was related to connecting education with employment. I started computer science in Spain. And I think I fell into that because I was decent with numbers and I also didn't know any better, right? My parents said, well, you seem to be good with numbers. Engineers seem to be a prestigious career. Go check it out. And I did. And I soon realized that even though it was good to acquire a technical background, I just didn't want to spend the rest of my life coding. And I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I at least realized some of the things that I didn't want to do. And the good thing about acquiring a technical background is that it can be leveraged in very different ways. It's not just about coding, even though I spent some of the years of my career coding, which helped. So at that point, I decided to move to the US. That's where I live, in Silicon Valley, to study a graduate program. And that was an opportunity for me to connect with many other people, including engineers that were thinking business like myself, and find ways to leverage that technical background in a different way. But still, business school sounded too high level to me. There were a lot of courses around like reading books and writing essays or things that were hard for me to know how to apply on the day to day. So I eventually realized that my sweet spot was right in between engineering school and business school. And that was called product school. That's called product management, building digital products. And I decided to create the school that I wish I had when I was starting my career.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Carlos, like one other question we kind of get a lot is, right, like people are very much interested in the product management space, but they want to understand it, how far will it go and how is it evolving, how companies are embracing and things like that. So and we have seen like in the last 3 or 4 years a lot of companies embrace product management, but still there are a lot of companies out there not completely embracing product management, right? So how do you see the overall landscape changing in the next 5 years, and do you see that there would be a point where everybody would understand product and do product in the same ways?
Well, I believe this is the best time in history to build digital products. And just to give you some perspective of where I come from and why I'm saying that is, I started product school 10 years ago, and I was the first member of my community. At that point, it wasn't really obvious that product management was going to become mainstream, even in San Francisco, right? Like a lot of the students, well, first of all, like product school today, it's over 2 million product professionals. So the community is global. There's millions of users. There are tons of product leaders at incredible companies such as Google, Meta, Netflix, or Airbnb that are contributing as instructors. And it wasn't like that at the very beginning. A lot of the students would come to us asking, what is product management? Why should I care about this? Right? Because a lot of the companies didn't have product managers. Typically, it was software engineers or designers or someone who was already there trying to guide the rest. But the practice of product, the function of product, wasn't as mainstream as it is today. And there's been a fundamental shift that made all of this now way more adopted, not just in Silicon Valley or in high tech. And this is the rise of the chief product officer. Today, over 1/3 of the Fortune 100 companies already have a chief product officer. That is incredible because now we have a seat at the table. Long gone are the days where the highest ranked product person in the organization reports to a chief marketing officer or a chief technology officer. Now there's a chief product officer with direct report to the CEO that is empowering an entire function to be more strategic. And based on our own data, we estimate that there's going to be over 50% of the Fortune 100 companies that will have a chief product officer by the end of 2024.
Awesome, Carlos. One quick thing there, right? So I totally resonate with the journey that you have been with because when I think about myself 10 years ago, when I came to US to do my MBA, I didn't know what is product management. I know Google and few other companies have been getting product management role and didn't know how to get into it, what to prepare, etc. And I struggled a lot, but now I see a lot of graduates who have a lot of knowledge either through YouTube or product school, etc. They can come do some certifications and learn for it. Actually, thank you for setting this up and bringing like a lot of product professionals together as well. One other thing I want to casually ask is I've recently seen that you guys launched an AI product management certificate, so which basically gives a thought process that product managers not just have to improve their knowledge in their generic work, but they might have to improve in the AI space as well. So would love to get your thoughts on how do you think the industry is going, what product managers should do and stuff there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we offer certification training for different levels of seniority in product. We have a program for the aspiring product managers that want to get that first product job. We also have programs for existing product managers that want to continue growing in their careers and become product leaders. And as you mentioned, we recently launched a certification on artificial intelligence for product, because we believe that this is huge for product managers. Today, we see a lot of product managers that call themselves artificial intelligence product manager. But in the midterm, I believe that all the PMs will actually be AI PMs. They will need to know how to leverage AI for their daily responsibilities. So it's very important for us to continue staying at the cutting edge of our function and offer training for product leaders in order to leverage this technology in a way that is not just following the buzz. Of course, there's a lot of buzz and there's a lot of noise, but beyond that, there's actually real use cases. And it's also not about just building an AI product from scratch. It's really about figuring out how you can integrate artificial intelligence in your product strategy so you can hopefully grow your product, monetize your product, and increase productivity. So those are the different skills that we are teaching in our recent program. One thing that makes the programs unique, in my opinion, is that the instructors are not teachers. They are all real-world practitioners. They're actively working as product leaders in companies such as Google, Meta, or Netflix, and they are teaching with us on the side. Because at the end of the day, these things that we teach are so advanced. They are happening in some of those companies. They are not happening in the traditional education. You want to learn from the very best and hopefully get jobs at the companies where these instructors are working at.
That's definitely a great point, Carlos. One thing which we have also been seeing in our companies is when we do our roadmaps, leadership has been asking us to, make sure AI use cases are incorporated into your features. Think about all that stuff when you're building products and all this. So I had a question around that. Like, one of the things which we have been observing is there are so many AI products coming out every day. Obviously, not every product is useful. I think people are just using the LLMs, AI, and building like random products which are not usable and sometimes not taking into consideration security and all that stuff, especially which is very important in the finance field. What advice would you give for PMs, especially when they're thinking about this AI, when they are incorporating that into their design?
Well, that's a great point because one of the benefits of I've been in the space for quite some time is that I can understand, I can see some patterns, right? And yes, AI is definitely new for a lot of people, but there were other things that were new a few years ago. For example, SaaS, software as a service, cloud computing, mobile. There were some technological changes that suddenly made companies question how to approach that. And there are obviously multiple answers to that. But if you think about it now, SaaS PMs are not called SaaS PMs, right? They are PMs that happen to understand how to build a software service or how to buy a product instead of build certain things from scratch. There are no cloud PMs, right? Now PMs understand how to leverage infrastructure in the cloud to build products on top of it. The same way, mobile PM is not a very common term because now it's expected that PMs understand how to build mobile products the same way they will build some web products. So that's the context of the situation for me with AI. Now, if we go a little deeper and look at what's really happening, my take is that there are two main approaches to this. One approach is to build the platform, is to try to build the LLM, the foundational model. And that approach is very expensive, requires a lot of time, requires a lot of engineering talent, and it also requires a lot of resources. So it's even if you have the money, you also need a ton of data. So companies that are playing in that space are OpenAI, Amazon, Google, Meta, your usual suspects, right? Because they're trying to build that infrastructure for other companies to build on top of, similar to cloud computing or SaaS or even mobile. So where I see most opportunity for the majority of companies or product managers that are building is on the user experience layer that they can build on top of those foundational models, and how to combine those existing foundational models, how to supplement them with some proprietary data and create a beautiful user experience that is really adding value in a very specific way to their users. That's what I see now, most of the opportunity for new products that are being built.
I have a follow-up question on that, right? So recently we have been seeing different companies taking different turns on product management roles. So I know Airbnb has changed their product management roles. They're going towards product design. And then I also heard recently that Tesla has removed a product manager role, but they're now being called as product engineers. I don't know. I think Elon Musk woke up Monday and told, I don't like the word manager. Let's go with product engineers. So thinking about these changes, right? How do you probably envision the future of the product management field? Do you think it will continue to stay for the next 2 decades? Would it tweak based on the field and stuff? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think those two examples that you gave are um, taken out of context in some ways, and can see how it can be misinterpreted, right? Because Airbnb, at least I didn't hear the CEO of Airbnb saying that he was getting rid of product managers by any means. I also didn't hear the CEO of Tesla saying that he was getting rid of product managers by any means. If anything, if you go to the careers page of Airbnb or Tesla, you will see there tons of openings for product managers, for product marketers, for product designers, for product engineers. So each company is thinking about how to label this role in a different way, but the base of all of this is that product is extremely strategic, and this has never been a better time in history to build data products. Why? Because it works. Because product is generating more revenue for companies that are leveraging the right way. And in addition to what I mentioned before, which is the rise of the chief product officer, and how a lot of companies, even outside high tech, outside Silicon Valley, already have an executive at the table, that's creating a trickle effect for the entire team. So examples of that are, now product teams have career ladders. We're seeing that it's not just about becoming a product manager. There are different levels: product managers, senior product managers. Then there are ways for those PMs to continue growing, either as individual contributors, can be called principal PM or lead PM, or as people managers, typically called group product manager, director, VP. That's one. We're also seeing how those career ladders are being expanded. And it's not only about being a PM. There's a lot of professionals within the product team that have other titles, such as product marketing. That's an extremely critical role. We are also seeing more technical product managers. We're seeing more business analysts. So to me, the concept of product it's more than just product management. But why? Why are companies investing so much in building these teams? Well, it's because of two things. One is because it's making them more money, either by increasing revenue or reducing cost, or both. Now in many companies, product is being perceived as a revenue generator. It's not just a cost center anymore. Other reasons that we are seeing that are empowering this next generation of companies to invest more in product is that now there is education in that. When I started my career as a software engineer, nobody was talking about product. When I went to business school, nobody was talking about product really, right? And I created that school to create much more awareness. Obviously, it's not just about us, but now there is a community of over 2 million members. More and more companies are fully aware of the benefits of that. We're even seeing companies creating their own internal programs, right? Google was the pioneer in that sense. Now there are many others that are creating their own associate product manager programs to help some of their employees move internally and become PMs. We're even seeing universities now trying to catch up and create their own product management programs. So there's now way more education and awareness as of why this practice is so beneficial for companies. And last but not least, we're also seeing that a lot of the companies that are now becoming big, the CEOs actually come from a product background. Even the examples that you gave, Elon Musk or Brian Chesky from Airbnb, they call themselves the chief product officer of the company. They are big believers in product as a strategic function. These are not people that come from a finance or sales background who think of product kind of at the end of the process where, sales people will sell something and then product has to deliver. So all of these trends at the same time are really pushing this function. And I am a big believer that it's going to be even bigger in the next years.
I totally see that, right? Because a lot of times you might change the word, but at the end of the day, the goal that you're trying to achieve is set that vision, set that strategy, have a strategic roadmap for the team, and then continue to drive.
I had a comment. So I also saw your Substack post on product managers becoming CEOs, right? Like all of that, and that was really good. So there is a lot of awareness, right? People are knowing what product is. Companies are embracing product, and there's also a lot of competition, right? So what would you suggest any aspiring product manager, right? Like what would be an advice which you would give them to break into product management?
Yeah, the market is bigger. There's definitely more awareness. The salaries for product managers are very good in general, at least here in San Francisco. Last time we checked, average for an entry-level product manager is over $150,000. And that only goes up as you become more senior. So with that comes a lot of responsibility and a lot of competition. So what I always advise to our students, our members of our community, is to put in the work consistently, because there are no freebies, right? Like if I'm wearing the hat of a recruiter and I'm looking at resumes and I look at people who say they want to become product managers, but they are not doing much about it, or at least I don't see anything on the resumes that is showing me that they are doing something different, I have no incentive to try to engage in a conversation, because there are other people who have more, right? So I'm not saying that you need to be a product manager in order to become a product manager, because that's kind of a chicken and egg problem. I'm saying that it's important to invest in yourself, to set yourself apart. And what we offer as product school is certifications for product managers. It's real world training, hands-on, where our students, aspiring PMs in this case, learn how to build products, how to act like product managers. And at the end of the program, they leave with a portfolio of products that they can showcase during interviews. They leave with a certification they can showcase on their resume or LinkedIn profile, and that can give them an edge as they navigate their own career.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's always
that's a
good
great
to
advice, Carlos.
build that additional muscle, right, where you can show what product experience you have, even though you're not a product manager in your previous role.
Yes, and I've seen a lot of advice online, right? So it's something very tricky, because some people will say, "Well, go build something, go network." Oof, I don't know, yes, you can try, but it's important to have some guidance, in my opinion, and put that effort in consistently. It's like going to the gym, right? Like if you want to get in good shape, you can't just buy watch a bunch of YouTube videos. You also need to show up to the gym, and you have to show up consistently. And you can also get a personal trainer that is going to make sure you are exercising the right way and is going to keep you accountable. So there are different levels of commitment. You can choose depending on your own situation, on your own budget, but what's important is to commit to it and put in the work consistently, because it's not easy, because there's going to be a lot of rejection down the path, but I believe it's totally worth it if you really believe in it.
So I've been giving some of the guest speaker sessions in my MBA school recently when I was invited, and one of the most common question to me was, what are the most important skills that are required for a product manager to be successful? So, in your opinion, what would that be?
Are we talking about the first-time product manager or a product leader?
First, a product manager, because most of them were like graduates, the MBA graduates.
Okay. Yeah. So for first-time product managers, what we teach in our program are the skills that are helping them get a job and be successful at that job. And usually that is overseeing the entire product life cycle. It's being able to identify what you want to build it, and ship it in a successful way. So let me break that down in more specific. So at the very beginning, what we cover is the market opportunity. It's really identifying what are the different options that we have to build, and how do we go about prioritizing them based on business goals. So what is the market size? What is our opportunity to really win in that market? What is our unfair advantage? So it's really understanding the problem and then having a strong point of view on what the solution is going to be. That is not expected to come from the product manager. We're not expecting product managers to be visionaries. We're expecting product managers to be humble enough to look at data, to talk to customers, to understand market trends, and then pick what's next. When that decision is being made, we go into breaking that down into a strategy and a roadmap to make sure that there are specific success metrics that are going to define how successful we are once we ship that product. It's also the roadmap is going to show us what are the different initiatives that we need to build, in which sequence, to make sure that we can ship on quality and time and budget. and how we're going to collaborate with the different stakeholders that are going to build this new feature or product with us. Typically, those are engineers and designers, even though there's interaction with business teams such as marketing and sales as well. Once we're building, we also need to create specific documents to help engineers and designers what to build. We're not telling them how to build, but we are constantly creating context for them to understand what. So in engineering case, that is typically more of a product requirements document, picking the right ceremonies, like the right methodology for engineers to be able to iterate and dissect the different initiatives into specific user stories. With designers, even though they can also access the product requirements document, we also create prototypes, wireframes for them to have a better idea of how the product is going to look like and what is going to be the experience for the users before they go into full-on design. And we use some of those early prototypes also with customers, just to make sure that we're going in the right direction and we can test some of those early hypotheses as soon as possible. We don't need to wait for the final moment to then realize if something went well or not. But that's typically part of the building phase. And then as we move into the shipping phase, there's a lot of relationships with business teams, typically marketing, to create the go-to-market plan and then go and actually ship and then test with market what is happening, what are some of the results against the success metrics that we define. So that's typically what we teach our students in a very hands-on way. Everybody's building a feature for an existing product, and we do one iteration. Products never end. So the expectation as a product manager is that you are going to continue iterating your product, and you are going to be making very important decisions such as killing parts of your product that are not working, doubling down on existing things that are actually working, as well as building net new things that have the potential. So giving students exposure to a real world environment where they are building with the real tools, they're getting feedback from real PMs, it's really helpful, because at the end of the day, that's what you are going to be doing in real life once you get a job. That's around 75% of what we cover in the program. The other 25% is equipping our students with the tools to actually get a job, because getting a job, learning how to get a job is as important as learning how to do the job itself. If you don't know how to get a job, you might not be able to even practice. So for that part, we focus a lot on job search strategy, helping students identify what are the companies that might be a good fit for them based on their professional backgrounds. What are the different roles within the product team that might be a good fit for them? Because it's not just about being a product manager. There's a lot of different roles that can be considered stepping stones. How to prepare the resumes and the LinkedIn profiles in a way that speak product. So a product recruiter can look at that and be interested in scheduling a call, and then practicing mock interviews so they can know how to navigate the whole process and put themselves in a position of success.
Yeah, that's a great summary how a PM should think from like ideation to launch, and it doesn't stop there. I mean, there are always opportunities for improvement. I have one follow-up question. One of the challenges that early career PMs, including myself when I was early career PM, was challenge with influence without authority, which is one of the most important skills for a PM to be successful as a product manager. Because as an early career PM who is new, probably may face challenges in having that influence over a lot of other stakeholders who don't even report to them. What advice would you give for someone like this to overcome that?
So now we're in the phase of someone who is working as a product manager and needs to influence others without authority. Leaders lead regardless of their title. What I mean by this is that you don't need to wait for someone to give you permission to take initiative. In fact, people who end up getting promotions, people who end up given authority to lead others, are the ones who've been unofficially leading others. Because influence is earned by your team. Authority is given. So how do you earn that influence? It's something that you can start practicing right away. And typically, the best way to earn your influence is by very simple terms, not being an whole. And number two, actually being there for others and shipping and building. So nobody Nobody wants a leader who is just telling others what to do, but not being there in the kitchen with them. That doesn't fly anymore. So leaders not only lead, leaders build. And you want to lead by example. You want to be there with your team. You want to show them that you are there to help them and that you are there to make everybody successful. That doesn't mean that you have to say yes to everybody. That doesn't mean that you need to lead by consensus. What that means is that people know that even if you're making a decision that it's not the best for someone, you are keeping the team's best interest in mind. And that typically pays off. And even if it doesn't pay off in your current company, it will pay off in another one.
I like the way which we are going. So we initially talked about aspiring product managers. Now we are talking about product managers and also on similar lines, right? So sometimes when people start doing the product manager job, and it's also difficult to get to the next level, right? Break the bamboo ceiling. So I feel that a lot of people are stuck in that middle product management space. So any advice for people to move into the next level, where either you become a director of product management or VP of product management and have more scope than a product manager? So what advice would that be?
That's why we also launched a certification called Product Leader Certification, focused on the existing product managers that want to become product leaders. And as I mentioned before, there is a career ladder now that is being created, where the first steps are typically individual contributor roles, product manager, senior product manager, and then it gets to a point that there are multiple options as how you want to grow. One option is to continue growing as an individual contributor, and those roles are typically called principal product manager or lead product manager. The most common path for people is to actually grow as a people manager. And at that level, that's called group product manager, director, VP, and eventually chief product officer. By the way, depending on the size of the company, maybe not, they don't have all those layers, but those are the most popular layers that we've seen in organizations. So here's the tricky part. Being a great individual contributor doesn't necessarily transfer to being a great people manager. It's definitely good to be an individual, because if you're not a good individual contributor, it's going to be very hard to even have a shot at being considered as a people manager. But just it gets to a point that just being a better individual contributor gives you diminishing returns. So that's why we created this certification, because there are certain skills, certain muscles that need to be exercised that are not always exercised as an individual contributor. Product strategy being one of them. As you think about the strategy of a product, there are different layers as well. First of all, the highest level for a company, you have the mission and the vision. And then there should be a company strategy. But the product has to be aligned with that company strategy. So the product leaders are the ones who create a product strategy that is going to show business outcomes. And they need to pick the right shots, because it's not just about picking the right feature for an existing product. It's really picking the right investment themes for an entire product org that are going to contribute to hopefully more revenue or other business outcomes for the company. So that requires thinking, that requires data analysis, that requires experience, that requires different skills that, sometimes as an individual contributor are not required. One that is learned, the next level is to actually define the rules of engagement, the OKRs. How are we going to measure success for our product strategy? How are we going to go about hiring the right people or investing in the right products? What are the people that shouldn't continue in the company? What are the products that we need to descale? Because when reality hits, you don't have unlimited resources, right? So there's some hard decisions that need to be made that are not just about building a feature, that are going to impact the entire company. So that is, in my opinion, what is more important for the individual contributors that work in product that want to earn authority and become product leaders. Now, at that point, you are going to have people managers actually reporting to you, and the impact of your decisions is going to be much higher for the good or for the bad.
Yeah, it's more higher stakes.
That is
So
true.
you actually build all of these skills together with your product manager skills, which you already have, right? Yep.
And I'm starting to get into that stage right now, and I totally see that. It's like you have to take a lot of step back, make sure your team drives everything, You give the required inputs, but not actually give the suggestions to do certain things and stuff. Yeah. So, Carlos, this is great. I know we are almost at time. We usually conclude our podcast with a couple of simple questions. Is there a book that you would recommend, or is there a book that you're currently reading that you would recommend to the viewers? And then probably another podcast too. Is there a podcast that you love and that you would recommend to product managers?
I'm going to recommend 2 books and 2 podcasts, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I wrote a book and I host a podcast, so I don't want to just recommend my own stuff. But yeah, I published the product book in 2017 because that was an amazing opportunity to build products. There weren't really that many books out there. There were books around how to conduct the interview, but not about how to actually build great products. So it's a very simple read. It's actually free on our own website. If anyone wants to download it, it's productschool.com/book. And it already got 400,000 downloads, and it's been translated to 4 different languages. So anyway, that's the book that I would recommend. The other book that is not mine is called Connect. And this was written by my coach, Carol Robin, who is a legendary professor from Stanford Business School, who created a program called Interpersonal Dynamics, and some people call it touchy-feely. That book called Connect is around leading with empathy and vulnerability and creating meaningful connections both at work and life. And that experience as a mentee, as well as someone who is constantly investing in being a better leader, was very fascinating for me, because what I realized is that my goal wasn't to always be perfect, to always show up with solutions, was to actually be vulnerable, is to show a personal side of myself, and hopefully that helps others be more vulnerable and create that connection. So that is a book that I would recommend. And then on the podcast side, again, I host a podcast. It's called the Product Podcast that I've been doing it for 5 years now. It has over 5 million downloads, and we host chief product officers from some of the largest companies in the world, as well as CEOs of companies that are building products for product managers. So I know what it is to be on your side of the interview. Another podcast that I enjoy as a listener is the Andreessen Horowitz podcast. I find it very interesting to learn from other CEOs as well as product executives on how they're thinking about building the future.
Got it. No, this is wonderful, Carlos. Again, I know you're a very, very busy person. Thank you so much for taking time and joining us in Everything Product. Thank you.